November 17th, 2021. It was 3:13 a.m. It was raining steadily. The streets were empty. And Ryan Collins was standing alone at the bus stop. His car had broken down near the forest, and his phone battery was almost dead. The city was about 10 miles away.
It was impossible for a bus to come there at that time.
But then, headlights appeared from the fog. An old, rusty bus. A bus that might have been on the roads 20 years ago. The bus slowly came to a stop in front of him. The door opened with a creaking sound. The first thing Ryan saw was the bus number. 313. He didn't know why. A strange uneasiness arose in his heart as soon as he saw this number. As if he had seen this number somewhere before. But he couldn't remember where. He got on the bus. And immediately he realized that something was wrong. Very wrong. Inside the bus, there was an unusual silence. The engine was running. It was raining. The wheels were spinning. But still, it seemed as if someone had drowned out every sound in the world. There were 12 passengers inside. All silent. All sitting straight. And they were all wearing the same clothes. Black. Like they had come to a funeral. Ryan sat in the back seat. That's when his eyes fell on a little girl sitting in front of him. She must have been 7 or 8 years old. She was staring at him silently. Ryan smiled and waved his hand. The girl didn't react. She just kept staring. Then he slowly turned the doll he was holding in his hand towards him. Ryan's heart forgot to beat. The doll's face was burned, and its eyes had real human teeth. The girl whispered, "You shouldn't be here." Ryan immediately looked away. A few minutes passed. Only then did he realize that the rain that had been beating down on the bus windows had stopped.
He looked outside.
And his blood froze. Because there was no longer a road outside. The bus was traveling through a dense forest. The trees were unusually tall. And behind each tree, a shadow seemed to stand. Shadows that were watching the bus go by. Ryan met his eyes. The shadows disappeared. "I'm probably tired," he said to himself. Then he looked at the time. 3:13. He remembered that he had been on the bus for at least 15 minutes. But time had not moved forward a second. Sweat appeared on his forehead. Only then did he realize that all the passengers on the bus were now looking at him. All of them. Their eyes were open. Very wide. So wide that the whites of their eyes had almost disappeared. And there was the same smile on their faces. Inhuman.
Dead.
Ryan stood up immediately. "What's the matter?" There was no answer. Just silence. And then, from the back of the bus, the sound of someone's nails scraping against the wall began. Clucking, clucking. The sound was slowly getting closer. Like something was crawling under the floor of the bus. Ryan looked down in fear. And what he saw, he could never forget it for the rest of his life. A human face was buried under the floor. Just a face. The body was nowhere to be found. The face was stuck in the floor like glass. And the man was alive. His eyes were asking for help. His lips were moving. He was trying to say something. Then, suddenly, an unknown force pulled him down. And he disappeared into the floor. Ryan screamed. At that moment, the bus stopped. The door opened. It was completely dark outside. But inside the darkness, hundreds of human figures stood. Silent. Without moving. Staring at the bus. Only then did the driver get up from his seat. For the first time. And slowly, he started walking towards Ryan. With each step, his bones were making sounds like they were breaking. Crack, crack, crack. Then, he stopped right in front of Ryan. And he lifted his face up. Ryan screamed. Because the driver's face, it was his own face. But half of it was badly rotted. And a swarm of insects was crawling in place of one eye. Then he smiled and said, "Ryan, we recognized you even after you were dead." And the next moment, all the lights on the bus went out. Complete darkness. Only one sound remained. A girl's whisper. All the lights on the bus had gone out. It was completely dark everywhere. Such a darkness that he couldn't even see his own fingers. Ryan could only hear his own rapid heartbeat. And then, someone whispered right next to his ear, "Don't look back." The voice belonged to the same little girl. The same girl with the burnt doll in her hand. Ryan's body froze in fear. He didn't dare to move. But at that moment, He heard someone breathing behind him, very heavy breathing. It seemed as if an unusually large being was standing right behind him. The breathing, it would stop for a moment. Then it would be heard again. And each time it felt closer than before. Ryan closed his eyes. He wanted to turn around, but the girl's voice was heard again. If you see him, he'll take your face. Suddenly the bus lights came on again. Ryan immediately looked ahead. But now, the bus was not the same. All the passengers were gone. The seats were empty. Only the little girl remained. And the driver. But the driver was not in his seat. He was standing in the middle of the bus. And he was staring at Ryan silently. White worms were crawling inside one of his eyes. His lips were spreading unusually, as if his face was about to explode. Then he said, "Check the name." He threw an old book at Ryan. The book fell to the floor. Dust flew, and its cover appeared. Passenger register. Ryan opened the book with shaking hands. First page. Second page. Third page. Names were listed on each page. Hundreds of names. And with each name a date. Some dates were from 1954, some from 1978, some from 1999. And in front of each name was written only one word, collected. Suddenly, his eyes stopped on one name, Ryan Collins. Below it was a date, November 17th, 2024. Ryan's blood dried. It was a date from 3 years later. He immediately closed the book. What is this? The driver smiled. This is a list of people who are going to board this bus. I'm still alive. The driver started laughing. But that laughter was not human-like. Like several people laughing at once. Now. But not for long. At that moment, the bus jolted to a halt. A thick fog covered the windows. So thick that nothing could be seen. Then movement began within the fog. Dozens of shadows. Hundreds of shadows. They were gathering around the bus. Silent. Still. As if waiting for something. The girl looked out the window in fear for the first time. They've come? Ryan asked. Who? The girl's face went pale. The one who couldn't go back. Then, there was a loud knock on the bus door. Knock. 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 The entire bus shook. Then another knock. This time, stronger than the first. Knock. The glass began to crack. The knocking continued. Ryan peered out the window, and he screamed, because the people standing outside were not human. They had bodies, but they had no faces, just smooth flesh, as if someone had erased their faces. And everyone was looking at the bus. Suddenly, one of these creatures put its hand on the glass, and a human voice was heard from inside the glass. Ryan. It was his mother's voice. Exactly like that. Like she used to call him when he was a child. Son. Open the door. Ryan's eyes widened. His mother had died 10 years ago. Ryan. Let me in. The little girl screamed. Don't listen. She's not your mother. At that moment, a terrifying scream was heard from the back of the bus. Ryan turned around. A new passenger was sitting in the last seat of the bus. Although there had been no one there a few seconds ago. Tall. Black suit. And the face. The face was exactly like Ryan's. But his eyes were completely black. He smiled. Then he said softly, I am the real Ryan. And at that moment, all the doors of the bus opened automatically. The faceless creatures outside rushed towards the bus at once. As soon as the bus doors opened, the faceless creatures standing outside started to rush in together. Their movements were not human. They were not running. Instead, they were sliding forward on the floor, as if they had no bones in their bodies. Ryan jumped up from his seat. His heart was beating so fast that he felt like it would burst out of his chest at any moment. The first creature entered the bus. Its face was a piece of smooth flesh. No eyes, no nose, no mouth. But still, it turned straight towards Ryan, as if it could see him. The girl immediately grabbed Ryan's arm. Run. Where? Don't go to the driver. Why? Fear spread across the girl's face. Because he owns them all. At that moment, dozens of creatures entered the bus. And then something happened that shook Ryan's soul. The bodies of these faceless beings began to change. Eyes began to form on their flesh. Thousands of eyes. On their arms. On their necks. On their chests. And they were all looking at Ryan at the same time. Together. Without blinking. Ryan screamed. Then he and the girl ran to the front of the bus. But suddenly, the scene inside the bus began to change. The walls began to grow taller. The roof began to rise. The path began to widen. Within seconds, the bus had turned into an endless tunnel. They were no longer inside the bus. Instead, they were standing in a strange world, where there was only fog in the distance, and thousands of old buses, rusty, destroyed,
Silent.
Ryan asked softly, "What is this place?" The girl replied, "The last waiting room." Suddenly, there was movement in the fog. Ryan saw that hundreds of people were there. Some were crying. Some were sitting silently. Some were banging their heads against the walls like madmen. And there was one thing in common on everyone's faces.
Fear.
Intense fear. A fear that breaks a person from the inside. Just then, an old man approached them. His eyes were bloodshot.
His face was weak.
And his body was trembling. "Are you new?" Ryan nodded. The old man immediately backed away, as if he had seen something dangerous. "What's the name?" "Ryan Collins." Hearing this, the old man's complexion turned pale. "No, that name can't be."
Why?
The old man started to tremble. "Because someone with that name is already here." A jolt of electricity ran through Ryan's body. "What?" The old man pointed towards the fog, trembling. And then, someone came out of the fog. Ryan's breath stopped. It was himself. Absolutely himself. Not a single difference. The same face. The same voice. The same clothes. But there was a strange smile on his face. "Finally, you came." Ryan stepped back. "Who are you?" The other Ryan started to laugh. "I am you." "Lie."
No.
He came closer. "I am the Ryan who got on this bus 3 years ago." Ryan's hands began to tremble. "This is impossible. Time doesn't run straight in this world." The other Ryan whispered. "Here the past, present, and future are all trapped in one place." At that moment, terrifying screams began to be heard from the sky. Ryan looked up, and the scene he saw, it shook his mind. Thousands of human bodies were hanging in the sky, upside down, without ropes, in the air. Their eyes were open, and they were constantly looking down, as if waiting for something. Only then did they all open their mouths at once, and said the same sentence. "He's awake." The ground began to shake. The buses began to shake. The fog began to blow. And in the distance, in the darkness, a huge thing seemed to move. So big that its head was above the clouds. And its hundreds of eyes were shining in the darkness. The girl's voice trembled. "No." He woke up before his time. The second Ryan immediately sat down on his knees. There was fear in his eyes. For the first time, "We're all going to die." And then, the giant creature stepped out of the fog. And all its eyes were fixed. The giant creature that was tearing through the fog had fully emerged. Ryan had never felt so afraid in his entire life. The thing didn't look like an animal, not even a human. Rather, it looked as if it had been pieced together to create a terrifying entity. Its body felt like it was made of darkness, and thousands of eyes were open above it. Some human,
Some animal-like.
and some that the mind couldn't even understand what they were. The thing was moving slowly, but with each step, the ground trembled. The old buses parked in the distance were breaking down, and the spirits in the fog began to scream. He woke up. He woke up. Thousands of voices began to echo together. Ryan looked at the other Ryan. "What is this?" The other Ryan's face had turned white. "This is the owner." "The owner of what?" "Of time." At that moment, the creature stopped, and its thousands of eyes closed at the same time. Then only one eye opened, very large, and it was looking straight at Ryan. At that moment, Ryan's head hurt terribly, so much so that he fell to his knees. Then suddenly, images began to appear in his mind. Fast-paced images, one after another. He was seeing himself, but at different ages.
Childhood.
Youth, old age, and then
Death.
Ryan saw himself in a car. It was raining, the road was wet, and the truck coming from in front was out of control. A few moments later, there was a powerful collision.
Blood.
Broken glass, and complete silence. The image disappeared. Ryan woke up gasping. What was that? The other Ryan looked down. Your death. Ryan's blood dried. No. It's going to happen in 3 years. You're lying. I'm not lying. The other Ryan's voice was trembling. I'm the same Ryan who came here after the accident. Ryan stepped back. That's impossible. That's the truth. At that moment, the little girl spoke angrily for the first time. Don't listen to her. Ryan looked at her in surprise. Why? The girl was silent for a few moments. Then tears came to her eyes. Because he's not telling the whole truth. The other Ryan immediately looked at him. Be quiet. But the girl ignored him for the first time. This place is not the world of the dead. Ryan was shocked. What? It's a trap. What do you mean? The girl pointed to the thousands of buses parked in the fog. Most of the people who come here are not dead. Ryan's hair stood on end. Then, they are brought here. Why? The girl raised a trembling finger to the sky, where the giant creature stood. It needs food. At that moment, the ground began to shake again. Screams rose from within the fog, and Ryan saw the bodies of several people standing in the distance slowly rise into the air. They were screaming. They were asking for help, but no one was saving them. They were heading straight for the sky, towards this creature. Then his thousands of eyes opened, and the next moment, they disappeared. Only their screams remained. Ryan's breath stopped. He ate them. The girl shook her head. He doesn't eat bodies. Then what does he eat? The girl's lips trembled. Time. Time. He eats the rest of the lives of humans. Ryan couldn't understand. The girl explained. If a human wants to live another 50 years, he swallows those 50 years, and humans become an empty shell. At that moment, Ryan realized, all those faceless creatures, those spirits, those travelers, they were all probably his victims. Then a sound of laughter came from the other side. The other Ryan was laughing.
Slowly.
Then loudly. Very loudly. You finally understand. Ryan looked at him, and for the first time he felt his eyes changing. They were no longer human. They had the same darkness inside them that the giant creature had. Who are you? Ryan whispered. The other Ryan smiled and said, I am not you. I am the one who brought you here. At that moment his face began to split. The skin began to separate. The bones began to twist. And a completely different creature began to emerge from inside him. A creature that made Ryan scream. And then, the giant figure standing far away opened its mouth for the first time. And a voice echoed throughout the world. Passenger number 313, bring it to me. Passenger number 313, bring it to me. That voice was not just heard. It was felt. It was as if someone had shaken the entire universe and said this sentence. The earth was shaking. The fog was swirling like a storm. And the horns of thousands of rusty buses standing in the distance began to sound automatically. At the same time, a sound was created that the human mind could not bear. Ryan put his hands over his ears. Blood started flowing from his nose. The other Ryan standing in front of him had now completely changed. His human skin was falling to the ground, as if someone had removed a mask. A long, thin being was emerging from inside him. His hands were unusually long. The fingers were like spider legs. And its face didn't exist. Just a deep black hole. Something moving inside it. Something alive. Something Ryan didn't dare to see. The girl stepped back in fear. No, that's not possible. The creature slowly straightened up. Then it turned its head towards Ryan. I've been waiting for you for 3 years. A cold wave ran through Ryan's body. Who are you? The creature laughed. And with its laughter, human faces began to form in the surrounding fog. Screaming faces. Crying faces. Faces asking for help. My name is very old, but you can call me Conductor. The girl's face turned pale as she heard this name. Conductor. You're still alive? The conductor looked at her. And you still hope to escape, Emma? Ryan was startled. Emma? The girl lowered her eyes. That's my name. Who are you? Tears welled up in Emma's eyes. I was a passenger once too. Ryan fell silent. How many years ago? Emma replied. 1961. Ryan's heart nearly stopped. This is impossible. I was 9 when I got on the 313 bus. And I've been here ever since. Somewhere in the fog, the sound of a child crying echoed. Emma closed her eyes. I've seen thousands of people come here, and they all make the same mistake. They think they're dead, even though they're alive. The conductor clapped his hands. Great. You told him half the truth. I'll tell you the other half. At that moment, the ground began to crack. Cracks appeared beneath Ryan's feet, and inside those cracks, he saw thousands of people, all alive, all screaming, all trying to get out. The conductor's voice echoed. These are the people whose lives were taken away. The owner eats up the rest of their lives. And then, they're stuck here forever. Ryan's mind was spinning. But why me? Why me? The conductor fell silent. Then he smiled slowly. Because you're special. Special? You are passenger number 313. Hearing this, Emma looked at Ryan in fear. Oh God. Ryan asked, what does that mean? The conductor's voice changed. Now it sounded like several voices at once. Every 13 years, a door opens. And for each door, a passenger is chosen. That passenger is different from all the others. Why? The conductor looked up at the sky, where the giant creature was. Because through it, the owner can be freed. Ryan's blood froze. Free? It was imprisoned thousands of years ago. And now you are the last key to breaking its prison. At that moment, a thunderous voice came from the sky.
For the first time,
this giant creature told its name, and just hearing the name made Ryan's ears bleed. Azraelvor. As soon as he heard the name, the windows of the buses parked nearby shattered. The fog began to howl, and thousands of souls trapped underground began to cry. Emma immediately covered Ryan's ears. Don't hear his name again. Why? Whoever hears his real name in full, he becomes a part of it. The conductor began to laugh. It's too late now. At that moment, a severe burning sensation burned on Ryan's arm. He rolled up his sleeve, and his breath stopped in fear. A mark was emerging on his skin. 313. In the form of burning black writing. From inside the flesh, the conductor slowly moved towards him. The mark has awakened. The door is about to open now. Emma screamed. Ryan, we have to run now. Where? Emma pointed to a strange light in the distance of the fog. The return door. The conductor's smile disappeared. For the first time, anger appeared on his face. You can't take him there. And, at that moment, hundreds of faceless creatures emerged from the fog and began to move towards the illuminated door, as if wanting to stop them from reaching there at any cost. Emma grabbed Ryan's hand. Run! And the two of them began to run towards the light with all their might. But behind them, the conductor's voice echoed. What's waiting for you on the other side of the door is even more terrifying. Ryan was running through the fog, holding Emma's hand tightly. Behind him were hundreds of faceless creatures. Their footsteps were not heard, but their presence was felt, as if a wave of cold was constantly approaching from behind. In the distant darkness, that light was now clearly visible.
a door.
Alone, standing in the middle of an empty field. There were no walls around it. There were no buildings. Just an old white door. Ryan gasped. Is this the way? Emma nodded. This is the only way. And if we get there? Emma was silent for a few moments. Then he lowered his eyes. Then maybe you'll survive. Maybe. But Emma didn't answer. At that moment, a terrifying scream was heard behind them. Ryan turned around. The conductor was not following them.
He was just standing there.
And smiling. That was the scariest thing. As if he was sure he had won. A few minutes later, they both reached the door. As he got closer, Ryan saw that the door was not old. Rather, it was very strange. Thousands of names were carved on its wood. Some names were new. Some were centuries old. And among them all, one name had emerged fresh. Ryan Collins. Ryan's step stopped. Why is my name here? Emma's face turned pale. Because everyone who passes through this door, his name is written here. And then he will never be the same. Before Ryan could ask anything, the door opened automatically. And on the other side, he saw his house. His very house. The same room. The same couch. The same clock. Ryan was shocked. This is my world. Emma grabbed his arm.
No.
Just look. Don't go in. Ryan peeked inside the door, and his heart nearly stopped, because he saw himself in his own house, sitting on his own couch, watching TV,
Completely alive.
completely normal. What is this? There was fear in Emma's eyes. This is not your world. This is the world that is taking your place. Ryan couldn't understand. What do you mean? Emma said softly. When a passenger boards the 313 bus, then another being takes their place. Ryan's blood froze. No. Yes. You boarded the bus 3 days ago. And another Ryan has already gone back to your world. Ryan's hands began to tremble. That's a lie. That's when he saw another scene inside the door. His mother, his sister, his friends. Everyone was laughing with this other Ryan, and no one suspected the slightest thing. Then, suddenly, the other Ryan stopped watching TV. He slowly turned his head and looked straight at the door. That is, straight at Ryan. Then he smiled. The same terrible smile that was on the conductor's face. Ryan took a step back. He can see me? Emma nodded. Because he knows you're here. At that moment, Ryan inside the door stood up and slowly started walking towards the door. With each step, his body began to change. His skin began to darken. His eyes began to disappear, and cracks began to appear on his face. Then he stopped right in front of the door and whispered, "This is my life now." The door slammed shut. Ryan gasped. What was that? Emma fell silent. Then he said softly, "This is the real trap. People think they want to go back. But when they get back, it turns out that someone else has taken their place." At that moment, the ground shook violently. Much more than before. The fog began to break. The sky began to darken. And in the distance, Azrael Vor's giant form began to move. But now he was much closer than before. Much closer. His thousands of eyes had opened, and they were all fixed on Ryan. Emma's face turned white. "No," Ryan asked. "What happened?" Emma's lips were trembling. "He's found you." Just then, the 313 mark on Ryan's arm began to burn, with intense pain, so intense that he fell to the ground. And then, a memory flashed through his mind, a memory that wasn't his. A dark room, ancient walls, and a man who was imprisoning Azrael Vor. But the sight of that man's face made Ryan's soul tremble, because that man looked exactly like Ryan. Ryan was lying on the ground. The burning mark 313 on his arm was no longer just pain, but like something inside his body was waking up. His head felt like it was exploding. And then memories started to come back. But they weren't his own memories. Darkness. A vast hall made of ancient stones, carvings on the walls in a strange language, and in the middle was a human. The human was like Ryan, but older, more tired, and there was not fear in his eyes, but responsibility. He stood slowly inside a circle, and in front of him, that same creature was Azrael Vor. But now he was imprisoned,
Chained.
and a web of light surrounded him. A voice rang out, "If this prison breaks, then time will end." Ryan screamed in his mind, "It's not me. How could it be me?" Suddenly, the memory disappeared. He was back in that foggy world. Emma was kneeling beside him. Her face was both scared and sad. "You saw it," Emma said. "Now you understand who you are." Ryan was panting. "No. I'm an ordinary person." Emma shook her head slowly. No, Ryan, you're not ordinary. At that moment, the conductor's voice echoed in the distant fog. Finally, the memory returned.
He was slowly approaching them.
And behind him, the sounds of thousands of buses on the ground were screaming. You are the heir to imprisonment, Ryan Collins. The conductor spoke. The person who first imprisoned Azraelvor was you. Ryan's mind began to explode. Lies. The conductor smiled.
No.
You are reborn again and again. Every time the confinement weakens, you come back. Emma glared at the conductor for the first time. You never told him what the real problem was. The conductor laughed. If he had told me, he would never have gotten on the bus. The ground began to shake violently. One of Azraelvor's legs appeared from within the fog. This time he was bigger than before, and his eyes were brighter. Emma took Ryan's hand. Ryan, there is only one way now. Ryan asked tremblingly. Which way? Emma said softly. You have to take your place back, the same place where it all started. And that place. Emma looked at the conductor. Inside the bus, the first night of 313. Ryan shook his head immediately. I'm not going there. The conductor laughed loudly. You're gone, you just don't remember. At that moment, the fog cleared, and an old bus appeared. 313. But this one wasn't broken. It was new, just like the first night. The door opened automatically. Emma pushed Ryan.
Now.
Ryan fell in, and immediately the door closed. The conductor was left outside, and for the first time, fear came to his face. No, you can't do this. But the bus had moved. This time, everything was different inside. There were no passengers, only empty seats. And on each seat was written a word. Memory, fear,
death,
time. Ryan's breath caught. What is this place? The speaker inside the bus turned on, and a voice came. You have returned to the moment where you first touched the prison. Ryan shouted. Who is speaking? The voice came again. You yourself. The bus entered the darkness at high speed. And outside, Azraelvor's scream echoed. You can't imprison me again. The bus disappeared into a light, and Ryan's scream was heard. No! The darkness inside the bus was as if light had never existed. Ryan recovered with a jolt. There was no seat in front of him anymore, no windows,
no door.
Just a vast, empty, white space. And then a voice came from right inside him. You're back.
Ryan put his hand on his chest.
Where am I? An image emerged in the space. The same ancient hall, the same walls, and the same Azraelvor. But this time he was not free, but almost free. Standing in front of him was the same man, Ryan. But this time he had a light in his hand, a circle, a prison. A voice rang out. This is the last chance. Ryan shouted. Who are you? The answer came. You yourself. The gap broke, and Ryan fell back into that moment. Inside the bus. Bus 313. But this wasn't the first night. This was the moment where everything began. Emma stood in front, but there was no longer fear on her face. Only regret. Ryan, you must have remembered now. Everything was coming back to Ryan's mind. He wasn't the human who had the accident. He was the one who had imprisoned Azraelvor for the first time. But the imprisonment wasn't perfect. To maintain the imprisonment, someone had to return to this place every 13 years. And that same passenger 313 was chosen. Ryan shivered. So, I am all this myself. Emma nodded. Yes, and I was your first student. At that moment, the bus began to shake. The doors broke open, and the conductor entered. But this time he was not alone. The figure of Azraelvor was also coming from behind him. The conductor said, Now finish the bus. Ryan slowly closed his eyes and remembered that moment when he first created the prison. He placed his hands on the ground and made the same sign in space. 313. Light exploded. Azraelvor screamed. The entire bus shook. Emma shouted, Now. Finish it now. Ryan completed the circle with all his strength. And one last voice came. The imprisonment is complete. The light swallowed everything. Silence. The bus disappeared. Azriel Vor was gone. Not even the conductor. Not even Emma. Not even Ryan. A few days later, a bus pulls up at an empty bus stop at 3:13 a.m. Number 313. The door opens, but there's no one inside. Just a voice. A new passenger has been selected.
The end.